Okay, peeps, I'm going to be doing a video in relation to flat Earth, and it isn't a video about whether I think the Earth is flat or round, because I don't like to invest in thought alone without evidence, and to be quite frank, like most of us, I don't have any evidence, and so I'm not going to be expounding on what my programs are because there aren't any, what my biases are because there aren't any, what my beliefs are because there aren't any. I look at the world and I have a certain level of assessment, and to be quite frank, I haven't concluded a great deal from that. And so I'm not going to be mouthing off proclaiming that I know anything about this dimension, other than probably it doesn't exist and it's all a figment of consciousness. And it's not even in our brains, and so it gets weird, people. Now, what I'm going to do is I've listened to about 10 videos on this subject over this past couple of hours. Years ago, I did a lot of research and I looked long and hard into it, and I concluded then that jury's out as far as I'm concerned, because all of these so-called professionals, they just don't convince me. And it's for lots of reasons, but you'll see a couple of reasons. You've got these so-called professionals, which the world looks up to, and we're supposed to believe what these people have to say. Well, they don't talk any sense as far as I can see. And I'll just point out a few of their logical errors, and you can make your mind up yourselves. Now, the whole thing about the flat Earth, of course, it's got many connotations as to why people think the Earth is flat, and I'm not coming at it from any structured perspective in any shape or form, because that's not why. And that's not how I do my videos. I will just enter into a topic and I will speak about what comes up, basically what flows through me. But there's stuff in here that is going to be making its way towards the forefront. And so let me just do a bit of shooting down myself in relation to these people who absolutely dismiss the flat Earth hypothesis. So let's have a listen to the guru Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I don't like debating people because in a debate, what is the construct? It's typically two.
First and foremost, he doesn't like debating people. What on earth is that about? Debate is something that we've always done. It's very, very useful. You've got your ideas, somebody's got somebody else's ideas, they bring them to the table, they discuss them. That's the whole thing about a debate. You listen to other people's opinions. Maybe you'll modify your opinion a little bit. Maybe indeed you'll change your opinion completely, depending on the validity of the information, the impression it's made upon you. You don't like debating. Well, that sounds like someone who doesn't like throwing stones because he lives in a glass house. So what I'm saying here is, people, if you're not comprehending the metaphor, he doesn't like debating because invariably he can't win. Why can't he win?
People, and there's an audience, and you debate some opposite sides of some issue, and then there's a winner of the debate. And then everyone walks away.
Okay, so he's now insisting that when there is a debate, there is a winner. Well, wow, Tyson. What I did is I'm like, look, everything in my brain tells me that you're talking complete and utter nonsense. But before I go spouting off in a video, because there may be some sort of technical caveat or something like that that I'm not familiar with, and as it turns out that there is something of this nature, and so let's just see what that is. I typed into Google this: is there always a winner in a debate? And so Google says there is not always a definite winner in a debate because winning is entirely subjective and depends entirely on the context of the judges. The concept of a winner varies across different formats, and so this is what I was anticipating: formal competitions. Now, a competition, whenever have you heard a debate which is a competition? I've never seen one. I've never been privy to a competition. So in academic and competitive debate leagues, so you've got a proper league, goodness me, where people are really trying to win. Well, I've never seen any of those. A Wikipedia debate. A winner is always declared. Judges award points based on a strict set of criteria like content, style, and strategy. Okay, so if it's a game you're playing, a league, then you follow that criteria. But under normal circumstances, there isn't such a thing as a winner, and this is why. Public and political debates. There is no official scorecard. Who won the debate is a truly dumb question to ask. Viewers often declare a winner based on who sounded the most confident, charismatic, or persuasive, rather than who actually had the most accurate facts. Now, this is what Tyson is afraid of, because if he comes up with someone that's more charismatic than him, and that's not hard to beat, then he'll feel like he's a fool because the crowd will be applauding the charismatic person, and he'll walk out thinking he's wasted all his life engaging in the fiction of science. So Reddit says, just because someone wins a debate does not mean they are right. Now, constructive discussions. In casual or philosophical debates, both sides may simply walk away with a better understanding of the other's perspective, meaning the true winner is the acquisition of knowledge rather than a defeated opponent. Now, that's what I said from the get-go. That's my logic. There's Tyson's just talking absolutely ridiculous. There's always a winner. And then the whole audience will walk away thinking about what the winners said. And let's go back to what Tyson's got to say. So he's wrong from that perspective. So should we believe him in anything else? That's what I'm saying, people. Should we now take this man serious? I have never done.
Reflecting on the winner. So who wins a debate?
So he says here, the audience walk away reflecting on the winner. Well, why would you assume that the whole of the audience is walking away reflecting on one party? Surely the whole thing going to a debate would be that you are going to listen to both sides of the story impartially because you want to gather more information yourself and you want to be better enabled to make your own assessment. You don't go away like automaton just thinking about the one that won. No, that must be true then. Tyson, you're a numpty, a complete and utter pleb, and I've got no idea why you're a millionaire and why you're out there on the circuit other than you're just feeding numpties, and that's what the circus has provided, clowns.
Often the person who's charismatic, who's maybe charming, that's related to charisma, of course, who has a good way with words, good vocabulary. And you can have someone who doesn't have any of that, who is speaking objective truths, who could lose a debate. So then what is the point of the debate if one of these points of view is objectively true?
Well, why is that? Look, let's get things in perspective here. Tyson is inferring that the audience would consider the charismatic person the winner simply premised on their charisma. Well, I don't think that's how intelligence works. It is indeed how presidential elections work, it would seem, in America, because they all just gravitate towards the biggest idiot on the strip, usually. And so, but in a debate where you would hope that there would be intellectual people with open minds and minds capable of cognizing different advantages and different ideas and perspectives, well, people would be walking away thinking, oh, yeah, okay, I learned a little bit of something from that. Has it changed my opinion? Maybe I need to do more research before I conclude anything from this, but it was interesting either way.
So I will not enter a debate where I have the objectively true side of an argument and the other person does not.
Okay, so you've already concluded that you're the winner. Now, how intelligent is that? I would have thought, premised on what's happening in the world, how the so-called knowledge that the world has had has always been superseded by other knowledge. And indeed, in very recent times, there has been a Nobel Award awarded to a quantum physicist because it is claimed that he has proved that the world, the cosmos, isn't in actual fact a simulation. And then there has been someone else who has absolutely proved that Einstein was wrong when he said there's nothing that travels faster than the speed of light, because quantum entanglement doesn't entail any distance or any speed. What happens is in quantum entanglement, when one particle moves, the other particle moves in unison, exactly the same, without a single millisecond of difference. And these particles can be separated the length and the breadth of the cosmos. So therefore, Einstein was wrong. Information travels faster than the speed of light. So Einstein was wrong. Many people have been wrong. In actual fact, scientists are always being proved wrong. Every year, scientists have been proved wrong in one shape or form. So he's sitting there now, snug like a bug in a rug, thinking that he is in the position of power and all righteous, and he absolutely knows that the world is round. And yet he's never been into space. He's never conducted any of these experiments. He's just been influenced by other numpties in the scientific realm.
That is something that should not be debated, does not belong in front of an audience getting debated.
Hang
You want
on,
to debate something? Debate
what should not be
political
debated?
policy.
Let's have a
Be
listen.
debated.
Hang
Does not belong.
on.
What is the point of the debate if one of these points of view is objectively true? So
Hang on, what's the point of a debate if one of these points is objectively true? Well, according to who? That's the thing, Tyson. You see, the flat earthers don't believe in your truth. They believe in their truth, and so they would like to debate you to see what you've got to say about it. But if the flat earthers approach you and say, hey, we'd like to have a debate with you, you turn them down because you reckon your information's true and theirs is not, and so you don't see there's any point. But what if your information that you say is true isn't true? And what if you can't prove it? What if you've not got the articulation or the scientific evidence to actually back it up? What if you can't lay down a decent collage of evidence to prove your standpoint? I think you're afraid of being made a fool, to be honest, Tyson.
I will not enter a debate where I have the objectively true side of an argument and the other person does not.
Shocking.
That is something that should not be debated.
Shocking.
Does not belong in front of an audience getting debated.
Nonsense.
You want to debate something? Debate political policy of what to do in the face of climate change. Do you have carbon tax? Do you
You see, this idiot, he's so sure, he's absolutely positive that he's got the right information. And yet, he's the one on record, ladies and gentlemen, that I've heard on many occasions tell the audience, I am still waiting for someone to prove to me that we are not in a simulation. That's what this man has said on numerous occasions. So if he's still waiting for someone to prove to him that he is not in a simulation, then surely his whole belief is premised that he is in a simulation. And if he thinks he is in a simulation, then everything can be simulated. And so his mind is simulated, the information he's privy to is simulated, and maybe other people's minds and information is simulated in another way. He's not given that any consideration at all. And so he speaks in one way that he's still waiting for someone to convince him that he's not in a simulation. And then he comes out with twaddle like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to lay it very, very plain before you now. This is why I hold my intellect in such high regard, because all of these so-called intellects, I will run rings around them. I will make them look absolutely shockingly ridiculous. Give me 5 minutes with any of them, and I'll do this to every single one of them. It's not difficult. It really isn't.
Solar panels, do you subsidize them? Debate that. Don't debate something that is or is not objectively true in this world.
I want to debate what you think you know, Tyson. That's what I want to debate. Oh, you're not up for that? Damn. Well, I suppose we'll just have to, well, what do? We just carry on regardless then, don't we? We carry on with our opinions that you are a faker. You are a front for the Muppets. That's all you are, Tyson, because you don't actually know anything. And have you heard this man speaking about liberalism? Oh, you've never heard anything like it. He thinks it's all perfectly feasible for sex changes and people to use pronouns and this, that, and the other. And oh goodness me, you listen to the man speaking so haughtily when he's discussing those subjects.
World. The B.o.B, the rapper, I have a video letter to him, the transcript of which is in Letters from an Astrophysicist. That rose to that level of attention because he started saying, I am using laws of math and physics to show Earth is flat. Those are fighting words. You're going to say using math and physics? That is an alarm to the geekiverse that we must rise up and
an alarm to the geekiverse. Oh, you're using math and physics to defend your position. Well, the thing is, look, this rapper had a point. Because how many of us comprehend math and physics? How many of us are privy to all of the so-called knowledge pertaining to these little squiggly things that these scientists are so fond of? It could be one big ruse. It could be like a NASA operation, couldn't it, at the end of the day? NASA's got their space operation and all that nonsense going on, and then the mathematicians and the physicists, they've got their squiggly stuff going on, just like lawyers have got their indecipherable nonsense going on. You try and decipher what it says in any book of law, you won't do that. Why? Because it's absolutely purposely written not to be understood by the layperson, because it's written in gobbledegook that only can be translated when you go to law school and you read and listen to how it's written in gobbledygook to stop the layperson from being able to decipher it. So therefore, you as lawyers, you can charge them enormous amounts of money because they are bound by the law, but they do not comprehend it. And we won't give them the secret to it. They have to come through the certain criteria, the certain avenues, and they have to be bar members. They have to be Masons, effectively, don't they? They have to have the secret handshake and all that different sort of stuff. Look what's going on in the world, people.
Counteract these forces from the dark side that are out there.
Side.
So the bat signal went up.
Side to the fence you're sitting on, mate.
Responded. What is the bat signal? Oh, sorry. In my Twitter stream, there were people saying, Neil, you got to do something about B.o.B. Save him from himself. He's saying Earth is flat. Then I first said, who's B.o.B? So I quickly looked at him. Oh, it's a rap star. Okay. These are people who follow me and B.o.B. in the Twitterverse. So what does that Venn diagram look like? How much overlap is there in the two Venn diagrams? In this slice, however narrow, they were pleading to me to do something. And so I responded with a video letter, just kind of putting him in his place.
Put him in his place.
I think it's important to combat people who are claiming that they are using math, science, evidence, and physics behind.
Putting him in his place. Now, if that isn't speaking exceedingly derogatory about a lot of people who think different to Tyson, So he's going to be putting them all in their place. And he's already said that he's never going to debate anyone because he's got all the answers. And there's no point in doing that. So you see how haughty he is. Where does he get that haughtiness from? It's because he's been to the school of indoctrination. Because I don't think he's an intelligent man. I've listened to him speak on lots of things, and even now there's nothing intelligent coming out of his mouth. So why would anyone want to trust him? I most certainly don't. And so and he's wondering about these rappers. Where does that come into it? Someone's watching this or listening to this rapper and listening to me. Oh, goodness me, we're worlds apart. Well, the thing is about rappers, mate, they see the world in a very different way to what you do. They're seeing all the bullshit. They're seeing all the conniving. They're seeing all the fakers like you, which have been put on the silver screen to beguile all the masses. But when they listen to you, like I listen to you, I can't see an ounce of intelligence coming out of your mouth. So I don't have any reason to believe anything you say and believe the things you think you know that you don't want to talk about with mere mortals like us, Tyson. Oh, goodness me, I'm ripping Tyson a new arsehole, aren't I? I hope he gets to see this.
Find their cause when in fact they either aren't or they're using it badly. That needs to be called out. Otherwise, if you just have a belief system, I don't really care. Their cause when just kind of putting him in his place.
Oh, with a smile.
I think it's important to combat people who are claiming that they are using math, science, evidence, and physics behind their cause when in fact they either aren't or they're using it badly. That needs to be called out. Otherwise, if you just have a belief system, I don't really care. We live in a country that protects free speech, which usually also means free thought. You want to think Earth is flat? Go right ahead. But if you start influencing other people who have power over other people, and you have no foundation in objective reality, it can be dangerous. If you influence people or you yourself become someone who has influence over.
So he's speaking about a foundation in an objective reality when he's already on record many times saying that he doesn't believe in the objective reality. And so this is where we are, people, in the world today. We've got these frontmen that say, well, they're speaking, white men speak with forked tongue, only it turns out now that black men also speak with forked tongue, and yellow men, and red men, and all different other colours of men. They all speak with forked tongue. So that was probably one of the greatest points of wisdom which ever came out of the American Indians' tongues. White men speak with forked tongue.
For legislation, laws, rules by which we all abide in society, that's an unhealthy situation for civilization to be in. If your personal belief system, which does not have correspondence in objective reality, starts becoming predominant in the thoughts and hearts and minds of civilization.
Well, whose minds are actually in objective reality then? That's what I want to know. That's what I've spent this past 17 years trying to work out, ladies and gentlemen. I've been trying to work that one out. Oh, silly me. I should have just listened to Tyson all these years and then just continued to play the fool. Wow. So, just to clarify, just to make myself absolutely plain, he made it plain that he would never debate anyone because he's got all the answers and everyone else needs putting in their place. And yet, has he ever been out into space and seen the globe? Has he got any actual, tangible, experiential evidence of the world being round? The flat earthers, their biggest issue is that they consider that the people in positions of power are lying to them. Well, yes, that is absolutely true. They've been lying to us about every single thing imaginable ever since there's been hierarchical systems. But there's something else that I want to speak about, and I'm going to be speaking about that in another video because it's about the whole mentality of why we are influenced to think about one thing rather than another thing, and the biases and the indoctrinations and the states of consciousness and all different sorts of things like that. I want to get into that, but I'm going to get into that in a fresh video. But for now, I just want to show you another one of the so-called pillars of the scientific society. And this one is the guy
We still have flat earthers. We have people that don't believe in vaccinations. And what do we do about it? Well, first of all, I think there's a gene. I think there's a gene for superstition, a gene for hearsay, a gene for magic, a gene for magical thinking.
Now, Michio Kaku, I'm often mentioning him. He's very prolific on mainstream. He now is completely outside of his realm of professionalism. He's gone into biology, he's gone into psychology, he's gone into philosophy. What he is saying now, he thinks that there's a gene within the human being that makes us think in certain ways. Okay, let's continue, please. Let's just go back a little bit.
There's a gene for superstition, a gene for hearsay, a gene for magic, a gene for magical thinking. And I think that when we were in the forest, that gene.
Well, if there's a gene for all those things, there's a gene for absolutely every single thing and way in which the human beings think. So there's probably a gazillion, bazillion genes which make us all think in different ways. So I'm already at a loss as to what your grounding is. Where does this come from? It doesn't come from psychology. It doesn't come from biology. It most certainly doesn't come from biology. Have biologists found this gene? This is responsible for people thinking in abstract ways, and when they don't want to believe the supposed truth on Earth because they just don't see it that way. And no, I mean, he's not even speaking from an intellectual way, saying, well, you know, we all think different, we all see the world different, and that's normal. We all grow in different cultures under different ideologies, different backgrounds, and we've learned different things, and lots of us are ignorant to some things and not too ignorant to other things. So therefore, we're going to have a bias to the things that we're not too ignorant to. And if someone says to, here's the thing, right? I went over to the shop just before I started this video, and there's a youngish Sri Lankan guy there. He's about 40 years old. And he says, what are you up to today? And I says, I'm looking into the flat earth theory hypothesis. And he looked at me and I said, have you never heard of that? And he went, no. So he lives in a very, very different world. He wouldn't know anything about quantum physics. He would have never heard of Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, I don't know what Sri Lankan dudes watch on YouTube, but it isn't any of this stuff. And so can you imagine what sort of a world that he lives in? We've got to take this on board, people. We're all living in very, very, very different worlds. And just because Neil deGrasse Tyson has grown up and he's been grinded through the indoctrination system, and he's had all this so-called science and knowledge stamped onto his mind in some shape or form, then he looks down upon everyone else who's had different experiences. Michio Kaku, take it away.
Gene actually helped us because 9 times out of 10, that gene was wrong. Superstition didn't work, but 1 time out of 10, it saved your butt. That's why the gene is still here, the gene for superstition and magic. Now,
hang on, is this gene of superstition something that you have invented, or is it something actually that biologists have written about because they've found the gene of superstition? I don't think they have, mate. And so, therefore, you're inventing it. It's completely your little baby, and you're speaking about your little baby that you've just invented as if it's something of some magnitude that we all should bow under because you are a theoretical physicist and you're one of the puppets out there on the mainstream.
There's no gene for science. Science is based on things that are reproducible, testable. It's a long process, the scientific method.
There's no gene for science. Well, okay, look, if there's a gene for superstition, then there's obviously a gene for something which can be pragmatically investigated. And that's the very nature of science. It's all by trial and error. We learn information by coming up with a hypothesis and then making tests and then seeing what the result is. And so there obviously is a gene, if you want to use that sort of vocabulary. Equally as much there is genes for superstition, for thinking that there's boogeymen in the forests every time it gets dark, but in the daytime the boogeymen are not there, you see. And so that's our mind creating stuff. But our minds can also create envisioning themes like walking on the moon and traveling in the spaceship to Mars. And so I think it's the very same sort of thing you're speaking about, Michio. And so I don't know why you would vouchsafe one and discount the other, because it seems that they are two wings of the same bird.
It's not part of our natural thinking. It's an acquired taste. It's like broccoli. You have to learn how the power can be unleashed by looking at your diet, for example.
No. It's not an acquired taste. Look, let's get down to basics with this science stuff. If I am cooking, and let's say, for instance, that we all have a sort of reasonable idea how long it takes to boil an egg. Well, when people started to boil eggs originally, it was in actual fact a scientific experiment, because they didn't know what would happen if they put eggs in boiling water. That's all trial and error. Then occasions when something happened, they were cooking some water, maybe they were cooking some legs of animals in it and stuff, and then they got some birds' eggs, and then maybe someone just sort of fucking put them in, see what happens. And then they all went hard, and so it's kind of like, oh, well, the egg was soft, but the hot water made it go hard. And so then we got a little bit more sophisticated, and then when we have the kitchens and utensils and all this different sort of thing, we want to know, well, what's the precise time to boil a certain size egg? And so then it's an experiment, isn't it? It's trial and error. And then when we've done the experiment, we've got the information, then we can test it pretty well accurately over and over again. Well, that's science. And so, Michio Kaku, you're talking out your anus.
So I think 1,000 years from now, we will have flat earthers. 1,000 years from now, we will have people that still do not want to be vaccinated. Okay? So what do we do about it?
God forbid.
Well, it's a struggle. It's a struggle that's eternal, because I think it's part of our genetic makeup. Okay? And there's even a name for some of this superstition. It's called pareidolia. What is pareidolia?
Pareidolia isn't a name for superstition. Pareidolia is the description of the mind seeing faces in imagery. So if we're looking up at the clouds, then we may see a face or a shape or something. If we're looking into a tree, then we'll do the same. Our minds have this facility going on, which will always try to find animals or faces or something of that nature. That's what the mind does. What are you saying? That's the gene. That's just, let me just say, let me see, what did he say again exactly about this? Come on, Mickey.
It's called pareidolia. What is pareidolia?
Hang on.
Even a name for some of this superstition is called pareidolia.
Pareidolia. Okay, look, I'm gonna Google this while you're here, people. I'm gonna ask Google, is pareidolia a superstition? Pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon, not a superstition. Thank you. It is the brain's natural tendency to interpret vague, random stimuli as familiar shapes, like seeing faces in clouds, animals in wood grain, or hearing hidden words in static. Superstitions are the supernatural or magical beliefs people often attach to. So you can see people, I hope you're listening to this, Michio Kaku, the awesome, super duper respected theoretical physicist on the circuit. It's been around for years. He's a millionaire on the back of all the fools that listen to him and give him credence. And it's just, he's just talking absolute nonsense, just the same as Neil deGrasse Tyson was. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh, wow. These guys, the more you look at them, all you got to do, people, is listen. You just listen and look, and you'll see that they are all such a bunch of retards. Retards. Oh, God. I keep fucking knocking them out. Retards. Sorry, another Freudian slip there, people.
What is pareidolia? It's the idea that when you look in the sky, you see things that are not there. Let's do an experiment. Look at the clouds and try not.
No, it's not the idea that you see things that are not there. I just read to you, guys and girls, what it is. It is not when you see things that are not there. No, it's when you imagine, when your mind stretches itself to thinking that, oh, that looks a little bit like something. It's not seeing things that are not there. It's not like we're hallucinating. We're not hallucinating. The mind is just putting pieces together. And you see, I can look out here at these trees, and very often I'll see faces. I'll see faces in these leaves. And so that's just a pattern forming quality of the human mind. And it's very, very useful.
To see something there. It's very difficult. You look at the clouds, you can't help it. You see Donald Duck, you see Mickey Mouse, you see snakes, animals, you see all sorts of stuff.
I have never ever seen Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, snakes, and no, I've never seen it. The only time I've ever seen these phenomenon in the clouds is on DMT, and on another occasion when I'm doing the very deep inhalations and exhalations consecutively. Then DMT seemed to be released into my brain, and then I saw a bearded man's head in the clouds, which was there for about 30 seconds, and then it disappeared, and then I did the breathing again, and it came back exactly the same place. It wasn't an invention of my mind. It wasn't pareidolia. It was an actual manifestation via the DMT released in my brain. Michio Kaku, you are ridiculous.
Can't help it. Recently, the Notre Dame Cathedral.
So, by the way, look, has anyone ever seen Mickey Mouse in the clouds? Has anyone ever seen Donald Duck? Has anyone ever seen a snake? Come on, really? No. You can't help it. You see them all the time. No, never seen one. I've never seen one. You know, looking up at the clouds, I've never even gone, oh, you know, that looks a little bit like a camel. That looks like a pig. No. In actual fact, there was like probably one occasion I can remember when I was down in Portugal, and it seemed like there was some sort of a incredible alien type creature standing really, really tall with a spear, and all these clouds are streaking, everything like that. Yeah, that was going on. I probably still have some residue of DMT, by the way. Can't be sure.
Israel partially burned down, and sure enough, somebody said, "I see Jesus Christ there." I saw the picture, maybe you did too. It really did look like Jesus Christ, but it was the ashes of Notre Dame. And how many times do people see the Virgin Mary in a glass of tea? So we are hardwired to see things that are not there, because for the most part, they're harmless. For the most part, they do nothing. And once in a while, it saves our butt. And so that's why I think we will have flat earthers. We will have the people who don't like vaccination, because hearsay throughout human history was the dominant form of information sharing. You know, the internet is very new.
You're going to have the doubting Thomases forever and ever and ever, because it is human nature. We're not all just going to be believing the likes of you, Michio, because to be quite frank, you and your buddy Tyson don't make any sense to us. So therefore, we need to look for sense in other people and in other things. And that is a human trait, and you could call it what you want. You could say it's some sort of mystical thing we've got going on, or it's delusion, illusion, or whatever term that you used initially. It's minds looking across the board because we're not happy with what we're being told. No, so therefore we're looking for other information, and we're perfectly entitled to do that. Doesn't make us freaks, doesn't make us any less human than you, Michio.
Newspapers are very new. Science and technology is very new. But gossip, hearsay, slander, rumors, there's a gene for that. Okay? So, how do you combat it? Slowly, carefully, painfully. It's a painful process, but in some sense, we're going up against our genetic predisposition to believe in nonsense.
Oh boy, what are we dealing with? What are we dealing with, people? And so these guys, these are the ones that are telling us that they landed on the moon. And they come up with some cock and bull story as to why we can't see a single star in the night sky. In deep outer space, we can't see a single star, and they come up with some cock and bull bullshit as to why that made manifest why there wasn't a single star. And here, just to put the nail in the coffin, when the astronauts, which supposedly had been to the moon, they were sitting on that bench. There was the four of them, wasn't there? And they were asked, wow, it must have been amazing, right? What did the stars look like? You're standing on the moon in deep outer space. The stars must have been massive. It must have been incredible. And they all looked at each other. I don't remember seeing any stars. Did you? Oh, no. And then they go, no, we were too busy. We were too busy. Well, you seen you clowning around like this. Ooh! And I do believe that they took golf clubs up and had a bit of a fling around with a golf club on a ball, right? Yeah, but they were too busy to notice the stars. To be quite frank, people, I think as soon as you actually looked out the window, let alone stood out of the capsule, you'd go, oh my God. You would have a feeling of cosmic godliness. It would be something that struck you to your core. You wouldn't be able to do anything except just cry with that actual manifestation. Can you imagine, people, being outside of the Earth's atmosphere, the outer stratosphere? I don't know, it goes up to 20, 50 miles or something. You've got all this gases, oxygen and all the rest of it, nitrogen, all the gas particles, which filter what we see from deep space. And then you've got the Earth's pollution of smog and all that. Then you've got the chemtrails, not to mention those. Can you imagine how clear space would be when you don't have any of that, when there's no atmosphere, there's not a single particle of any of those gases to get in between your vision and deep outer space? There is so much bullshit. That's the reason why, Kaku and Tyson, that people aren't buying your bullshit. You're both a pair of bought and sold muppets. How'd you like that for a rant? Fucking hell, I'm fucking happy with that one. Good God, these guys are insufferable. They are absolutely insufferable. Anyway, on to the next video. By the way, did you like the video? Was it a little bit entertaining? Did you learn a few things? Do you appreciate my time and my labour? Anything like that? Did you have a bit of a laugh? Well, thumb up then. Comment. What do you think about any of this? Have you got any thoughts about it? About landing on the moon? About Neil deGrasse Tyson being a complete and utter plonker? Oh, fingers too sore? Oh, Anything? No arms. Okay. Can you do the elbows? There must have been someone that's invented some little thumbs on the. Come on, I'm having a laugh here. You appreciate that sometimes, don't you? Yeah. Oh, hype the videos.